Welcome back to talknorth.com. Thank you for listening. If you can, please download before you listen. It helps our business. I'd also like to thank our producer, Brandon Morton, and let you know if you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah, what condition my condition was in.
I woke up this morning with the sun down, shining in.
Twins did not call up Byron Buxton for September, and that has become the biggest story in Twins land, and I think it's really overblown. I think Byron Buxton's career arc, how it plays out, is the biggest story in Twins land, Twins country, whatever they call it these days, Twins Nation. But I think worrying about him playing September games when he's not maybe completely healthy is probably the most overblown story. But I'll defer to the expert, Roy Smalley of Roy Smalley's Chin Music and FSN.
Well, look, there are a lot of things at play here in the decision, for sure. I think the one that stands most strongest in the Buxton camp is, why would you do this to the guy that? Why would you risk hurting his feelings? Why would you give him this message when he's going to be your guy, your number one guy forever and ever? And what are you really losing? Certainly, it can't be just big league salary for 30 days. I mean, no. What makes a difference? And so it gets down to a couple of things, not the least of which is, if he comes up as part of the roster in September, he can become a free agent a year earlier than otherwise. And that obviously that's not until whatever that is, 2021 or 22 or after the 2021 season probably. So you say, well, why does that make a difference? So if you look at it from the Twins standpoint, there are a couple of things. They're not, I know for a fact, because I've talked to them, that they're not convinced that his wrist is healed.
Right.
And so you bring him up here to sit around just because you don't want to hurt his feelings. You don't want him going into the winter with an injury. You don't get it healed. And I think that's a big deal. And so you could bring him up so as not to upset him, to the first point. You could bring him up and have him sit for 30 days. And maybe they should have done that just to get him back as part of the team. But you really do have to look at merit, and it's not like he is absolutely deserving of a call up. It from a performance standpoint, it really is about the first point, which is, do you want to make him upset? Is that a good thing for an extra year of service? So to that point, I would say, I understand it's in the future, and I understand that it seems parsimonious. It seems like cheap. But they have a lot invested in Byron Buxton. They have a lot invested financially. They have a lot invested emotionally. And they have a lot invested from a roster and team organization success standpoint. If he's not the player that we've said this every show, I think, if he's not the player that they expect him to be, and if Sano's not the player that they expect him to be, this is a 5-year reset for this team. And they've got nowhere to go for a good 3, 4, 5 years until they're back to where they thought they would be this year with those two guys leading the way. And maybe more about that later. But I think from an investment standpoint, just giving him an earlier exit opportunity before you've really received any return on your investment at all, I think is, from a business standpoint, would be kind of dumb. And so you have to weigh being dumb in that sense to not making him upset. And I don't know. I think it could go either way. I don't think it's critical either way, but I just don't think it's that big a deal. And quite frankly, I come from a position where this is just me, but I don't think any player is owed anything. I know players feel like that and their agents, they're owed this or that. But when I look at Byron, other than the fact that I desperately want him to be the player, that he needs to be for this Twins team, I don't know that anything's happened other than the fact that he's a wonderful human being and a
great defender.
And a great defender. I don't know that there's anything that completely overrides the business decision relative to how do am I gonna really make him mad, or am I really disrespecting him in any way? I mean, players sign a 3 or 4 year, as an ancillary point, players sign a long-term deal, 3 or 4 year deal that they and their agents negotiate. Then they have better years, and they want to renegotiate. Mm-hmm. And the club couldn't go for all the Joe Mauer haters out there, the club couldn't go to Joe and say, you were better in the Metrodome. It was easier park for you to hit. We gave you this money, thinking that you were going to do these kinds of things, and you're not. So we'd like to take that down a little bit. They can't do that. Players all the time want to say, "Oh, wait, I'm way better than I thought I was." I need more money, and they want to renegotiate. Well, no, you signed that deal, and you were happy about it, and otherwise you wouldn't have signed it. And so that's the obligation you have to the team.
That's the deal, man.
That's the deal, man. And so I just think that, all of this grievance stuff, I think what Byron needs to do is go play someplace in winter ball this year, get himself healthy, play in winter ball, get a lot of games under his belt, go to spring training, and tear it up, and then take them for all they're worth in 2022, if that's the case. I mean, that, and I'd be in favor of that, and if he leaves if he becomes the perennial defensive player of the year and is a good offensive player, and he's just the stud of the American League, then the Twins are either going to have to pony up, or if he's still mad by then, he can stick it to him and go play someplace else, and I'll be in favor of whatever decision that is. But right now, this particular decision for 30 days in the career of this young man, when he's still hurt a little bit, I just don't see the real big deal.
I agree, and there's more meat on that bone. Let's thank our sponsors, berrycoffee.com, Whizkids.tech, Tony Hoaglund, your State Farm agent in Champlin. If you'd like to sponsor this program or any of the programs on the quickly growing network, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. And if you listen and you can download, please download. It helps our business, also better listening experience for you. To me, you do a little game theory here. Okay, Byron's mad, we assume. If Byron doesn't become the player they thought he was going to be, then him being mad at you isn't going to matter. If Byron becomes the player in the future that you want him to be, why then 3 years or 4 years down the line would he still care about this September and coming up and playing meaningless games in September? That's the way I look at it.
And if he wants to carry that grudge for 3 years, and then regardless of what the Twins offer, you just tell him, look, don't even make an offer, because I'm not staying here for what you did for me over those, making me have to play here an extra year. Then so be it. I mean, that's just the way it is. But I think it's all things in. Ultimately players have to play, right? I mean, so he's mad. What does that mean to the player? What are we worried about with Byron?
He's not going to.
He's mad and he's going to, and therefore he's not going to play well, or he's mad and he's really going to show him.
Right.
Well, either way, neither. To your point, makes a darn bit of difference in thinking about this decision. I mean, so the only thing about it's not really making him mad. It's a showing, I guess, the proponents, a showing of disrespect to a player that is going to be really important to you. And I get back to, yeah, but players just have to play. They have to play, and they have to earn the next contract. If he's wonderful next year, he's going to make a bunch of money. Even though he's Twins property, if he plays even better the next year, or he's going to make a boatload of money, and the next year, and then he's going to hit the jackpot in the free agent market. So I just don't see the uproar.
There's one more aspect of this I want to touch on after we tell you about Berry Coffee. You can find all their products at berrycoffee.com. It's a proud Minnesota company. It's a very green company. Roy is good friends with Steve Brem, the owner and operator of the company. You're probably tasting their coffee in more and more restaurants as we go forward here. Roy, we've talked about many different aspects of berrycoffee.com. I could tell people about the micro markets unless you had something you wanted to get to today.
No, I keep going back to, as a matter of fact, I just heard from Steve. They just got a new client as a result of us talking about them on this show.
Great.
Steve emailed me to say thanks again, and so I know that people are listening and making some decisions. And I guess I would get back to the restaurant aspect of things. I just for personal, just for my personal standpoint, I'd like to see more restaurants with their fantastic Bull Run fresh roast coffee that they have, grind and brew right over in St. Louis Park here with their own roasting facility. The beans there, you and I know, are sensational. They're just so fresh. It's unlike any coffee that you can get anywhere else. So I'd just like to. I'm hoping more people that make restaurant decisions about coffee will consider that.
Good to hear that the word is getting out. I hope everybody has Berry Coffee's stuff in their restaurants and in their businesses soon, because as we've tasted ourselves, we've seen it roasted ourselves, we can vouch for it. So thanks to Steve and the berrycoffee.com company. The other thing about Byron is just the simple math of the situation. Would you rather have him play in 20 meaningless games at the end of a lost season this year, or would you rather have him under control at an affordable rate for a full season later in his career? It's just such an obvious trade-off.
Any of us and anyone listening to us, if they had their own business and they had a product or a patent or something, and they had the choice of, if they just waited 30 more days before they introduced this product, then they would have the patent on it for X amount more time. Anybody would make that decision. And what we have here is opinions being, I think, based on the emotion of what will it do to this player and how are you treating him. And I just have to tell you that players don't get mistreated very often in Major League Baseball if they continue to play well and live up to the potential, whatever the potential is they have. It's a business. Can I tell you how many of the times I felt like I could have felt like I was disrespected by Calvin Griffith? Oh my gosh. I mean, I was in 1978 after my 77 season, in which I led all shortstops in putouts, assists, and double plays, played 157 ball games, and led all shortstops in run production, runs scored plus RBIs. And Calvin, I was making $75,000 a year, and Calvin sent me a contract for $78,000. And we were negotiating with Howard Fox, who was the general manager at that point in time, and I started to get a little bit indignant. And he said, "Oh, please don't be mad." He said, "I had to beg Calvin not to send you a contract that contained a cut." Calvin wanted to cut me in salary. He wanted to take me back 20%. And so these kinds of things happen, and finally we went to arbitration. I lost an arbitration